So tonight I'm going to be talking from Bhagavad Gita, that will be chapter 9, verse 13, for those of you who have cell phones and would like to join in on the verse. Anybody bring your cell phones? 9:13. Again, I would like to, as I have said before, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. It is a pleasure and a privilege to share with you these most wonderful and glorious teachings of Srila Prabhupada. I can't speak enough about Srila Prabhupada's mercy. It's just unfathomable and inestimable and infinite. And those words are really meant. And as I just mentioned, as time goes on, I begin to realize how true they are. And I thank you all for committing yourself to these teachings of the ancient Vedas as they have been broadcast and transmitted by Srila Prabhupada to his disciples and from his disciples to so many other devotees who became disciples. So I thank you all very much for your commitment. I thank you for your interest. I thank you for your absorption. And I thank you also, if you're doing this, sharing with others the great mercy that is available to everyone who comes to this movement. It's a big, big, gigantic ocean. It's gigantic, but it has a little portal. And you can't get all that mercy until you put in a little bit of work. You have to chant, you have to dance, you have to clap, you have to read these books, you have to share these books, you have to be enthusiastic, even if you don't feel it, but you do it. Eventually you actually become enthusiastic by virtue of your efforts. So all I want to mention and I want to emphasize is that that little portal that I mentioned, which is just a very tiny opening, as you begin to progress and advance and develop in Krishna consciousness, that little tiny hole begins to open and a big gush of the ocean starts to come through, and that is an ocean of transcendental bliss. That means that you don't have to go to the movie to be happy. You don't have to turn on the TV set to be happy. You don't have to read a novel to be happy. All you have to do is think of Krishna, be absorbed in Krishna, glorify Krishna, share Krishna, and that little portal opens up wider and wider, and the ocean of bliss flows into your heart, and you just feel so happy, and you can't even understand it. It doesn't make any sense, because all you're doing is talking about Krishna. That's all you're doing. You're talking about the greatest, the most glorious, the most wonderful person in existence. And he knows that, and he sees that you're trying, and as a result of seeing that you're trying, he reciprocates with you and gives you himself. What is he? He is bliss. He is peace. He is truth. He is love. He's all those things, and he's ready to give you all of that. But you have to open up the little portal, and you have to do the work. The 9 forms of devotional service, I hope to talk a little about them tonight. Because that's what will do it. Prahlad Maharaj, he utilized those forms. And so without any further ado, again, thank you for coming. And I do hope to come back as soon as I possibly can, because this temple is growing on me by day. I really need that. I love the trees, I love the whole ambience. I love the fact that this was just a house, and how it was turned and transformed into this beautiful temple. A temple doesn't have to be super big to be beautiful. It's mainly how everything is arranged and everything has been thought about. I mean, the columns, and where the Vyasasan is, the decorations, the marble, everything has been done with a forethought, so that everyone, including and especially the deities in Srila Prabhupada, would be happy to see that is going on. Okay? So we're very privileged. And as I said, sometimes we tend to measure things by their size and by their height. You go down to South India and you see some of these gigantic. It's the heart that's in the temple that counts. I went to a temple, just very briefly, I won't mention the name of it, in Chicago, and it was probably one of the most wondrous. I haven't seen such a wondrous temple. I think, well, it was called the Narayan Swami temple, I believe. And it was just amazing. All over, there was marble over every column. Have anybody ever been to Narayan Swami temples or any of them?
Yes. One of the big ones.
Oh, there's one there. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. They are super and beautiful and glorious. The only problem when I came in, I was looking for the heart. You see, I just came in, there was nobody to greet me, nobody to welcome me, nobody to thank me for coming. I was just there, and that's it. People would just tell me where to put my shoes. They want to make sure I didn't walk into the temple. Like I didn't know anything, isn't it? So that's it. That's all. I guess you have to be a member, or maybe you have to be a card-carrying member or something in order to get a hello, or you get a welcome, or you get a thank you for coming. So that's what I meant. So you don't get that here. You're just our president of, are you a board member now? Yeah. So, but Bhagavad has been around for years and years, but he thanks everybody, he welcomes everybody, he has a big smile on his face, he's glad to see everybody. Don't take that for granted, because every temple is not doing that. Many of them are so puffed up and proud and great with their big architecture, which is nothing. You don't get spiritualized by architecture, although it can be used as a means, but simply architecture in and of itself is not going to make you spiritual. And some people think that, well, we got this big temple, we got big Krishna here and Krishna there, and Chaitanya there. No, we don't have to talk, we don't have to do anything, we don't have to be personal. Nonsense. Nonsense. Krishna was so personal. Lord Chaitanya was so personal. And we try to follow in that tradition. And I hope everyone here, I know you're following in that tradition. You're all cheerful. You all have a disposition of wanting to share Krishna consciousness with as many people as you can. So again, without any further ado, I will begin the Bhagavad. Can you tell me what time I have to shut up?
No, it's 6:30 if you like to make it.
Pardon?
No, it's 6:30. Sorry, not 5.
Isi Bhakta Swami. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled Buddhas. All glories to the assembled Buddhas. All glories to the assembled Buddhas. And all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Translation. I'll do the translation first, and then we'll all do it together. O son of Pritha, on the second paragraph for those who may have lost their place. Okay? The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original supreme person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma or great soul develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the form Mahavishnu. Now that doesn't mean there's something wrong with Mahavishnu. Nobody should get that impression. It's just that there are levels or degrees of intensity of love. And generally speaking, persons who are attracted to Mahavishnu are more, let's just say, more formal, more sophisticated, more restrained, like Lakshmi Devi. She can't get into the gopis' ring of Ras Lila because she's too sophisticated. She's too meticulous. She's too controlled. She's very restrained, like a princess. Now, on a princess in a palace, she's very careful of how she speaks. She walks with mincing steps, and she wears the beautiful saris and wears all these beautiful bangles and glitters and glamour. So she's very sophisticated. But the gopis, being farm girls, essentially, they churn butter and so forth. They laugh out loud. They joke with one another. They talk about Krishna in a spontaneous way. They just let it out. Oh, this Krishna. Or they'll talk about the flute. That flute, how dare him get the lips of Krishna? And besides, he's a male. A male getting the lips of, because it's a male tree. You consider the trunk of a tree, a trunk of bamboo. How dare him get the lips? Those are our properties. So the gopis, they're a little upset, a little disturbed, because now we can't have all this coming, it's interrupting now. So please, remove the child. You can't keep quiet, and I don't want to force him. That's why I said I don't speak if the children speak. Okay, that's my policy. I do that all over the world. Yeah, you see, we can't, please, just kindly, I'm begging you on my hands and knees. I don't dislike your child. All these people want to hear me speak. So please be kind to them and respectful to them and take the children inside there. You don't have to look at my others are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu form. So the gopis are very spontaneous. They feel intense love for Krishna and they let it out. And they have no restraint. Whereas a very sophisticated woman is a little bit more shy, she's more careful, she's more watchful of how she speaks, may speak in a lower tone, controlled, restrained. This is what we call a kind of noble type of breeding. But the gopis are not like that, which doesn't mean that they're just like as if they have no breeding. Their whole breeding is focused upon just Krishna. And their whole mood is complete spontaneous love. This is called Radhanuga Bhakti. They have no concern about what anybody thinks. They don't even care what their parents think. Because after all, some of them are even married. And here they are talking about Krishna. They couldn't care less. They don't care if they get thrown out of their house. They love Krishna so badly. So that's a very advanced stage. When you're ready to give up your life and give up your reputation and give up your reputability, because Krishna is worth it. Okay. Getting to the next point. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna. Nor are they concerned with any form of the demigod or of a human being. They meditate only upon Krishna in Krishna consciousness. This is not only the gopis of Vrindavan. We have our 6 Goswamis who were perfect examples of this. So many devotees, male devotees as well as female devotees. Ramananda Roy, although he was a governor, and he was playing a double life, really. On the one hand, he was sophisticated, he was noble, he was careful, he was a ruler, and he played one part, but he had a different part he was playing in his heart. And that part was that of he was a gopi, and he knew it. He was aware of it. He was aware of what it is to be a gopi. He was completely, totally in love with Krishna. But externally, nobody would know that unless they were a person who had similar feelings, and he would share them, like with Amala Bhakta Swami. He shared those feelings. And so what happened was that when Lord Chaitanya went down to Jagannath Puri, and then from there he was going to go on a tour of all India. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to him, please don't forget to visit Ramananda Roy. I forgot the place that he was in. And visit him. I think you'll have a lot in common to talk about. Well, it turned out that Lord Chaitanya was so impressed, so overwhelmed by the spiritual knowledge that Ramananda had. But Ramananda Roy, he declined to accept all of that. And he said, whatever you are hearing from me about the gopis of Vrindavan, their love for Krishna, whatever you are hearing about me is coming from you. Yeah. So he says, from me? No, I think it's original. No, it comes from you. And I cannot say anything of any value unless you say it to me first. Now that's a very humble position. Many people, when they're praised, they say, well, thank you very much, I very appreciate that. And I'm really as great as I always thought I was. But it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that, but it means that, feels that. But not Ramananda Roy. His position was, and he actually meant this, he knew this. He wasn't playing the part of false humility. He knew that Krishna that was actually working through him. Always working through him. So that's and Krishna can work through everyone and anyone to the degree that we are pure. If our hearts are pure, if our minds are pure, if our speech is pure, if our actions are pure, and we dedicate our life to the loving service of Krishna, if we do that, then the result will be Krishna will be pleased. And if Krishna is pleased with this, then he will bestow his mercy upon us. What is that mercy? I've already mentioned it. I'll mention it again because we should know. Persons do these different things. They're chanting the japa, and they're reading the books, and worshiping the deities. But why am I doing this? What is the purpose of it? We forget the purpose and get so wound up in the means that we just, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But why am I doing it? To develop love for Krishna. Okay, will everybody say that? We're doing it because we want to. I want to hear it louder. We're doing it because we want to. One more time. We're doing it because we want to. I'm in love with Krishna now. How can I miss? That's right. Why I'm asking you to say it loudly so you won't forget it. If you keep it in your mind throughout the day, you say, well, what am I doing this? I'm doing this arti in my home, or I'm offering this incense. What am I doing it for? Sometimes we just do it for doing its sake. No, we should not do it for doing its sake, for duty's sake. To think that we're religious, to think that we're devotees, to think that we're really wonderful. We're better than the other people who have no religious. No, we're doing it to give pleasure to Krishna. That's it, because that's what love is all about. Giving pleasure to the divine, and removing some of his distress. You say, Krishna has distress? Krishna can cure anything. Yes, he can. But what distresses him when he sees his children, such as us, making such terrible decisions which cause us misery. Miseries which come from our own body and mind, such as own body and mind, such as you know that you shouldn't eat a particular type of food. You know it's not good. You know Krishna wouldn't even accept it, but it tastes so good. So you take it anyway, and you get a terrible bellyache, and all night you're twisting, and you're turning, and running around. You're trying the Alka-Seltzer, that doesn't work. You're trying the Tums. You're trying that doesn't work. And then you say, why did I do this? Krishna is teaching me a lesson now. I can't sleep and I have to get up for work tomorrow at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and probably I'll fall asleep just when it's time to go to work. That happens. It does. So, anyway, when this type of a situation, when it arises, then what happens is that we have to pay the price. There's a consequence for all of this. So that's therefore, the more we follow these principles, we find that those problems, as I said, which come from our own body and mind, the problems which come from other people's bodies and minds, some people insult you right to your face, or sometimes a person will insult you behind your back, or sometimes a person may write some horrible thing on your door, hate your guts, or whatever. And it comes all the time. People may insult you for your ethnic, your ethnicity, or for your color, or for your beliefs, or something like that. These are the miseries. And now, if we're identifying ourselves with our body, and somebody says that my body and my mind and my words I consider to be me, which is really not me. We're the soul, which can look and witness, observe them. I'm talking now, but I'm also watching what I'm saying. Okay? The more careful I watch, the more, I would say, logical I can be. If I'm not really thinking about what I'm saying, then anything can come out of my mouth, which has no rhyme, no reason, no continuity, and no coherence. That's what a dream is. You dream, things come in, and they make no sense, and then something else pops in, which is, first you're looking at a sky, and next a horse comes running, racing by, and a dog is barking, and you're trying to make head or tail of this, but that's what it means to have an uncontrolled mind. If you go to a mental hospital, you see there are people with this unfortunate disorder called schizophrenia, and they have delusions of grandeur, and they're thinking they're this person, I'm President Truman, or President Roosevelt, President of this, or I'm Mahatma Gandhi, or I'm Jesus Christ. They believe it. They actually believe it. And if you say, no, you're not Jesus Christ, well, you can believe what you want, but I know what I am. They're thinking like that. So, therefore, the important point is that we understand that all these miseries are coming from the external world. Then there are miseries which come, as we just saw recently in Louisiana, the big floods which come, the big fires which we just had in California, the big drought that we just suddenly saw coming out of, and then we have, of course, the tornadoes come in the Midwest, knock down houses. You see a house, it was standing, and then you see little splinters of wood just all over the sky and slowly coming down. A person's looking, he had that house for 75 years, and they thought it could never be wrecked because, after all, you have it for 75, you think it's going to be 75 million years because you live in it every day, and why should it be anything different the next day? But there is. We never know when the body's going to go, when the house is going to go, when the car is going to go, and we should be prepared for this. So when we are psychologically, mentally prepared for these things to happen, and if they do happen, you're not upset because you know they are possibilities. And if it's a possibility and it could happen any day, then when it happens, okay. So we shouldn't think, oh, Krishna, why did you take your grace? Everything was running so nicely. Now I'm going to have to lose a half a day's work. I have to bring it to the shop, and then I have to talk to he's going to charge me a high price to fix this and fix that, and I got to argue with him for a half hour to get him down for $2, or whatever it may be. So don't blame it on Krishna. We're just getting the results of our previous activities, which we call karmic reactions. Okay? So those are miseries which come from the demigods, or what they call natural disturbances, which is anything but the truth. They're unnatural. In the time of Lord Ramchandra, those things did not happen because people lived a virtuous life following in the footsteps of Lord Ramchandra. So they're unnatural in the sense we don't follow Lord Ramachandra's example, and therefore we violate the four regular principles of not eating meat, fish, or eggs, or not taking intoxication, or not gambling, or not having illicit sexual activities, and so many other things which are in the book Nectar of Devotion, if you really want to see how sinful you are. But I don't advise that, I'm not recommending it, but actually a person who's looking to become humble likes to hear about these things because then he has a target, something to overcome, rather than living in this dream world that I've been in the Hare Krishna movement for 2 years now, and I know I'm almost there. I'm almost with Krishna.
It's nice to have a nice imagination. And then Krishna comes down and he shows you, he gives you some terrible illness, and you wonder, wait a minute, Krishna loves me so much, why is he giving me all this? Well, you're an illusion, you're proud, you're vain, you know, you're conceited. Don't do that, because it distracts me, thank you. You're vain, you're conceited. And you shouldn't be thinking like that. You should rather be thinking, I'm a billion, trillion miles away from getting to Krishna, but I beg him, I cry to him, I entreat him, please help me to get out of this little slough of despond, this slough this idea that I'm something big when I know really I'm not. Help me to get out of this mentality. So then once we develop a humble humble, then we can go up. But as long as we think we're up, then where can we go?
Down.
Right. Pride goes before the fall. And that's what happens. We fall, just as I mentioned, and Krishna shows you, not because he hates you, not because he wants to harm you, but he wants to awaken us. He wants to awaken us to the fact of what we really are, so that we can truly and really arise and come up and go higher, not keep going down further and further and thinking that we are going up. So Mahatma means he is a person who sees things as they are. He has proper perception.
He knows where he's at. Actually, he thinks he's much worse than what he actually is. Generally, Mahatmas are very advanced souls, but they see little hair of impurity. For example, let's say they're worshiping. Well, I can even give you a very good example right out of our scriptures. Madhavendra Puri, he had gone to, where was that? I can't remember. Was it Rameshwar, I think it was? And he went into the temple, and they were serving, there was some sweet rice which was being offered to the deities. How many of us have tasted sweet rice? All right. Okay. So sweet rice is delicious. So Madhavendra Puri, a great devotee, very advanced. Let's see, watch the way he dealt with this problem. So he was in there and he was watching the deities were all offered, I think, whatever it was, 6 or 12 cups of this sweet rice. And he was watching them and meditating on them and glorifying them in his mind. But what happened was that as the deities were relishing the sweet rice, he was thinking, oh, I wish I could taste that sweet rice. So that once I tasted it and I learned what was in it, I could give it to my own Gopal deity, which was up on the Govardhan hill. So he was thinking like that. It was not something selfish, but on the other hand, it was a violation of etiquette because he wanted to taste it before the deity did. Deity has the first right because deity is the owner. The owner gets first choice. So after that happened, and the ceremony was over, Madhavendra Puri was saying, "Oh, what did I do? It was terrible. What an offense I made. In my mind, I was taking Krishna's sweet rice before him, thinking I'm more important." Of course, he had a good reason, but even a good reason in his mind was not good enough. He felt Krishna should get first, and whatever Krishna would leave and give to him, fine, then he would take it. That's the right way. So he went outside, and he was bemoaning his fate and thinking, my dear Lord, I am such a sinner. I'm such an offender. I'm such a wrongdoer. Please forgive me. Please excuse me. I'm so sorry. I will not allow this to happen again because you deserve the first choice, and I'm just good for nothing. This is how he was thinking. He's a great, great soul. Madhavendra Puri, actually, he's the forerunner of our love and separation. We have this principle that when we're apart from the Lord, well, we crave to be with Him, and the craving and the intensity is so great that it brings on an ecstasy which is greater than when we meet with Krishna. And that's a rather advanced subject, and I won't get into it, except to say that he was a highly advanced soul. So anyway, what happened was that he was sitting outside the marketplace, and it just happened to be that the priest, he had closed the doors of the deity, and he went out, he was going to take rest. The same priest who had offered the sweet rice to the deity. So this is some of the sweet rice. Anyway, so he went to sleep, and he had a dream. And he
told the priest, Madhavendra Puri, who is sitting in the marketplace right now, wanted to take this sweet rice. And I love Madhavendra Puri very much. So, although you thought you had distributed all the sweet rice cups, you didn't, because I stole one. And I kept it in a little place in the back by the curtain. And if you go look just behind the curtain, you will find it. It's there. So the priest woke up and says, wow, is this real? So he went, there it was, the cup of sweet rice. So he was thinking, wow, the Lord himself has stolen a cup of sweet rice from Madhavendra Puri. How great, how marvelous, how amazing, how astonishing this devotee is. He was Swami. You know, he was a mendicant. So he took the cup and he went into the marketplace, and there were a few people there, and he said, where is Madhavendra Puri? Where is the favorite, glorious Madhavendra Puri? He wouldn't even answer to that, because it would mean that he's admitting to his greatness. So, Madhavendra Puri, where are you? So he looked up, hesitantly, timidly. So he said, I want to let you know. So he told him exactly what had happened, that he had that dream. And he said, this is the sweet rice that the Lord has reserved for you. Tears start coming down his eyes. The Lord has reserved that for me, the offender, the sinner, the wrongdoer. For me, he gave this? He says, yes, he loves you very, very much. He says, so please take it. That's why he gave it to me, to give to you. He said, of course I'll take it. So he drank it down. You shouldn't think that because it's humble, I'm too low, I won't take any prasadam. That's foolishness. Prabhupada never rejected any prasadam. Never. He took it and relished it, and also whatever he didn't want, he gave to the devotees. Garlands, when Srila Prabhupada came in on the airplane, he would get out of the gate, and as soon as he get out, there would be a roaring sound of Hari Bol. And then I remember this in '76, he went on that, what they call that conveyor belt, where it just moves you along. So as the conveyor belt was moving, everyone was throwing garlands on Srila Prabhupada's head. After a while, all you could see is a nose. You couldn't see anything but a nose. I mean, he was taking them off and putting them on other devotees as they were coming on. But he wasn't fast enough. Because remember, we had hundreds of devotees now. Maybe she remembers those days. That was 1976, where we had hundreds of devotees in New Dwarka. T-Mobile calling. I have the same. So anyway, what's the last thing I said? Oh yes, the garland. So the point is that Prabhupada, he accepted the garlands, never said I'm too low, too small, too insignificant, too worthless to take this. He accepted them as Krishna's mercy coming through his devotees, and then shared them with the devotees so that they got the mercy of Krishna, to whom they had been offered, and then they get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who wore them, so you get kind of double mercy. You know, Maha Prasadam, I think that's what they call it. So this is the point that I was making at this particular point. So anyway, the point of all of this is that we need to develop this position of surrender. Surrender is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada in this purport. Surrender means, I belong to you, Krishna. I am yours, Krishna. My body is yours, my mind is yours, my intelligence is yours, my car is yours, my boat is yours, my wife is yours, my home is yours. Everything I have belongs to you. I have nothing. I'm really a beggar. I go out and I do my job, but I'm really begging for you, Krishna. And then I take whatever I can afford and I give it to you. I bring it to you here. I put it in that collection box. Everybody should remember to put something in that collection box. We can use every penny that we give, and so that we can buy more books and distribute more books and keep this temple running. Your support is very much appreciated by Lord Sri Krishna and all the great sages and saints. So, coming back to the main point, is that that's the way we gradually, slowly but surely become more and more advanced spiritually, more gradually developing, gradually ascending the spiritual ladder. So all we need to do is the things that have been done and advised by Prahlad Maharaj. So there were 9 forms of devotional service.
hearing about Krishna, hearing the holy name, chanting the holy name, which we do. How many are chanting 16 rounds every day? Okay, that's nice. How many are chanting 10 rounds every day, or at least 5 rounds? Okay, well, most of you are chanting between 10 and 16 rounds. That's wonderful. And I compliment you all for it. And chant them with your whole heart, with your whole soul, with a feeling that this is the greatest opportunity to draw closer to Krishna, because Krishna is in his name. Do we all know that? Krishna and his name are not different. So when your tongue and your voice touches Krishna, the name, you are touching Krishna. It's like I shake your hand, you know, like this. You're shaking the hand of Krishna. As Lord Chaitanya mentions that, oh my Lord, your holy name can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. They're not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy name, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. But as you keep chanting and chanting and chanting, the attraction will gradually grow. Just like when a person has yellow jaundice, and you give him as a medicine, they give him rock candy. Okay, rock candy is the medicine. But when he tastes it, he doesn't taste sweetness. He tastes bitterness because he has this malaria, and the malaria is the yellow jaundice. Sorry about that. He has yellow jaundice, and yellow jaundice affects the liver, and the liver produces an excess of bile, which comes out as bitterness in your saliva. So all you taste is that bitter, bitter saliva. But as you continue to take the rock candy, slowly but surely you begin to recover. And you begin to regain your actual taste, because the liver is finally beginning to work the way it's supposed to. And when the liver works the way it's supposed to, the rock candy, which is concentrated sugar, sweetness, is very, very sweet. Similarly, as you chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, what will happen, as is mentioned over here, Lord Chaitanya, not here, but Lord Chaitanya said that I have no attraction for this. That's all of us. That's because we're covered, we're contaminated. The soul is covered with the different 3 modes of material nature. But as we chant and chant, what happens? Like, remember I talked about the dark clouds a little earlier in the talk? So the dark clouds are surrounding the soul. As you chant, what happens is that the clouds begin to disperse. You ever seen clouds in a dark, cloudy day? We get a lot of that in LA. You have an overcast, which lasts till 11 o'clock, and then everything disperses, and then there's only blue sky. That's what's going to happen as you keep chanting with faith. If you have no faith, then you won't chant. Most of us have been raised with the idea of having instant or instantaneous results. If I don't get the results in 5 minutes, bogus. I don't want anything to do with it. But if you go for a university degree, do you get it in 5 seconds? No, you get it in 4 years generally. And if you want to get a master's, you may go for 2 or 3 more years. And if you want a PhD, you go for another 2 or 3 years. So these things take time, and they take examination. And Krishna is examining us every moment, every second. And if we pass each examination, he keeps loading us, the soul, dropping, kind of like you all take toothpaste, you know, when you squeeze it, it kind of squirts out. Well, that's what happens. His love kind of squirts out of the super soul into the soul, and you feel uplifted, you feel gladdened, you feel cheerful. You don't need alcohol, you don't need heroin, you don't need cocaine, you don't need any of these speeds or what, because you are already joyful, you're already happy, and you're getting it from the real, the right, the proper, the true source. You're getting it from your Divine Father, Krishna. Okay? So when you get it from the Divine Father, Krishna, that is what everyone is seeking. All these people who are taking drugs, they're seeking that, but never getting it because they become addicted to the drugs. And when they become addicted and habituated to the different drugs, what happens is that eventually they can't live without it. And they're willing to do anything to get it, which includes criminal activity. You lose your conscience when you take those types of... Now, in the case of real bliss, real peace, real happiness, which I've been talking about, which comes from the super soul, the toothpaste squeezing into the soul,
So, but it's not toothpaste, of course, it's heart paste. So you get some of that, and then you really become truly. But the difference is that your conscience expands to such a degree that if you even bump into a person, just a slight, as you say, excuse me, I'm so sorry. You don't want to commit any violence, any harm, any hurt, any kind of indisposition to any human being. You just want good for them. You want them to prosper. You want them to improve. You want them to become spiritual. So that brings a different kind of conscience. The conscience of always keeping Krishna in mind. Am I doing this? Am I pleasing my spiritual master? Am I pleasing Krishna? And if I am, if I'm doing what he's expecting me to do and wants me to do, then I feel really great about myself because Krishna is making me feel that way because he's pleased. Okay? So if Krishna is pleased, you'll be pleased. And if you're pleased, everyone around you will be pleased. And that's how you transform other people. Not by saying, do this, no, don't do this, don't do that. No, do it this way, and henpecking or dominating or dictating. That's not the way. You transform ideally. The way Prabhupada showed us. He did say don't, but he showed us by his example. And by your good example, by your sweetness, your gentleness, your kindness, your perseverance, your patience, your smile, your big, bright, beaming eyes full of love, people will say, you are different than anyone I have ever met. And I know so many devotees who've been told just that. Yeah, I've never met anybody like you. What are you on? He says, I'm on Hare Krishna. And I got 3 magic words for you. They're in this book. Here, take the book. 3 magic words. Well, what are them? You've got to read the book to get the 3 magic words, Hare Krishna and Rama. So that's the beginning of somebody's great, wonderful spiritual career, which will start with those wonderful 3 words. I even have a lot of fun when the telemarketers get me. Sometimes, how many get telemarketing calls? Everybody, yeah. Isn't that horrible? So, anyway, they call. I generally let my answering machine answer, but sometimes I'm expecting a call. And I don't like people to wait just because, to wait just because I don't want to hear the telemarketer hang up. So, because that's what often happens. If I don't answer, then they hang up. So, but if it's somebody I know and I don't want to keep him waiting even 10 seconds because he's going to tell me something that's important, so the first thing I pick up the phone and the person says, "Hello, are you Mr. Allen?" I said, "Who wants to know?" So he says, "My name is Jeannie, and I'm from the what do they call those people who fix up your house? What do they call it? Contractors, yeah. And we really want to fix up your house like you'd never even believe." I said, "Really? Would you like to know something? A confidential secret?" "Yeah, what is it?" "I don't have a house." But I'm going to tell you how you can make a house full of millions and millions of dollars like you've never heard before. "Excuse me, sir? You just have to chant these 3 magic words, Hare Krishna and Rama. Can you say that?" Well, come on, say it. The millions are ready to fall. All you have to do is say Hare Krishna and Rama. "Well, okay, Hare Krishna and Rama. Thank you. Have a wonderful day." Prabhupada says, one of the qualities that Prabhupada mentions in Nectar of Instruction is that spiritual master looks for different ways to get people to chant the holy name. So we do singing. So, you got this person who's bothered you already, so why not turn it into a chance to preach something and put them on the path of liberation? Because once they get those holy words, it starts. Krishna's made a promise. It may be this year, maybe next year, maybe 100 years, but I will definitely make sure this person gets liberated. Now, isn't that a wonderful thing that you've started a person on the path of liberation? And all you said is 3 magic words. And they are magical because they transform people. So I think, why don't we take this particular, I'm going to end this right now, but are there any questions before I end? Because this is about time, I think it's important too. Are there any questions or any comments that any of you would like to make, which could be productive? Please, I just have one entreaty. Ask me questions which pertain to today's speech. Please don't ask what we call controversial questions which have nothing to do with this talk. Like, what do you think of the Ritvik system? Or what do you think of Narayan Maharaj? Or what do you think of this? I don't think. Because when people ask me this question, I said, I have 5 minutes to live. And in those 5 minutes, I want to be thinking of Krishna, his pastimes, and his philosophy. You want to talk about that? Shoot. If you don't want to talk about that, leave me alone, because I'm going to die in 5 minutes. But that's a good answer, because that's what Prabhupada said right here. He said 24 hours. You know, so you try your very best to keep thinking. You don't allow that. So I don't allow that into my talks. I try to keep it positive, beneficial, beneficent, benign, whatever you want to call it, so that everybody comes out benefited, everyone comes out enthused, enlivened, and eager. I want everyone tomorrow, when you chant those rounds, really chant with your heart and soul. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna knows you mean it. Yeah, I'll get you in just a minute. He knows you mean it. And if he knows you mean it, you're causing him to feel some obligation to you. He wants to reciprocate with you. And he will. And you will feel more blissful and peaceful and strong. Yes, Mini Mataji.
Will you talk about the same compassion that we have for other human beings, for other living entities?
I'm not hearing. Why don't you come up a little closer? Sit right
I
here.
said, will you talk about the compassion you're talking about that we should have for human beings, for other living entities?
Yes. What you want me to
What
talk
you
about?
talk about?
Yeah.
Well, she wants me to, Rukmini would like me to talk about. I know Rukmini since she's 5 years old. She used to play in front of the building there, and I used to tease her. And she was just a little girl. And it's amazing to see people growing up. I get to see how old I am. My God. My 80s now, I can't believe it. Anyway, but I have to. Anyway, about compassion, that's what the question that was asked. First of all, compassion, real compassion, comes from being able to put yourself in another person's position. It's called, well, you start out with sympathy, being able to kind of understand what a person is going through, because maybe you had some difficulties, some problems, some tribulations or pains in your life. So you can understand. A person gets scratched and you're saying, oh wow, this hurts. And then you have some, well, let me try to help you. Maybe I can give you some of this salve that I have. We'll put it on and we can lessen the pain on that. Why? Because you had it, okay? So you had it, you know what he's experiencing, and you don't like anybody to be in pain. I mean, if you're a normal human being, if you're a person who's filled and fraught with hate, then you're actually glad. But most persons are really not that way. So, so you'll offer him something. So now, in terms of developing compassion, the more you become spiritualized, you see, the more Krishna will give us, he gives us insight into other, let me put it this way, as we continue to grow and develop, by that I mean give up the anarthas, the things that we shouldn't do. You give up to this, let's just say a person who used to smoke, he's not smoking anymore. Or let's say a person who is overeating, he's no longer overeating. We pass through different stages until we reach a point where actually everything is pretty okay. We're not falling down, we're not into irregular principles and things like that. So what happens is that this is called purification. Purification means that your senses are pure, your mind is pure, mind's been thinking, willing, and feeling. Your feeling is pure. So you can feel other people's feelings much more keenly than if you're in the more gross state of consciousness, okay? It's like looking out a window. You've got a window, if it's caked with dirt and dust, you can't see out very well. You can hardly see the trees. You start to take off the dust, you can see a little bit. Keep taking it off, taking it off. Finally, everything is clear and bright. Didn't look like that before. Similarly, you become more feelingful of other people's distresses and difficulties, tribulations. A person doesn't have to tell you that he's hurting. You can look at his face. You can look at the way his eyes are. You can look at the way it's the slant of his mouth. You can even go by even the breathing. You are sensitive to all these things because you've gone through these things yourself. and now you feel, if you can, you want to relieve that person's distress or difficulty. And sometimes you have to go about it in a very roundabout way. You can't come straight on and say, hey, I think you got a problem, can I help you? The person says, who are you to help me? You know, like that. Yeah, he doesn't want to, people don't like to admit that you're suffering because they like everybody to think, oh, I'm okay, you're okay, we're all okay, and they're all lying. So the point is this, that sensitivity will come automatically as the window becomes cleared of the dust, the dirt, the filth, and you'll be able to sense other people's feelings, and that will not only tell you what they're feeling, but it will create within you an urgency, and you'll want to try to relieve it. And Krishna will give you, because you depend on Krishna so often, give you the means by which you can do it. It can start out with a simple joke, something that makes a person laugh and relaxes them. When we did book distribution, that was the first thing I taught. We called it mellowing a personality. And I would say something funny. Example, you're in the parking lot, and you've got your books in your hand, and you approach someone, excuse me, a woman is walking with her daughter. Daughter is 17, mother is maybe 37. So I say, hi, sisters. Sisters? She's my daughter. So I've complimented her, I've made her feel that she's like a young 17-year-old girl. What could be better than that? So they start giggling and laughing. Okay, the person is kind of mellowed out, they're laughing. And then I say, what are you doing? You're taking yoga, or you're going on a diet? Because really, both of you look so almost alike, almost like twins. And then again, she's laughing and so forth. And then I said, did you get one of these? Well, it's not a book on diet, because you don't need a diet. You look fine. I said, but I want you to have this. Everybody can use a little bit of anti-anxiety knowledge, and that's what I'm going to give you with this. Here, take this, enjoy it. And by the way, if you can throw in a little donation to help out, you go, oh, well, of course I will. Yes, it's a nice boy like you. So the point is, you can start out in a very friendly, very joking, very lively way. That Krishna gives you the intelligence. You don't think these things out. It happens spontaneously because Krishna is in the heart and is giving you this kind of information, how to deal with the situation, and then you just deal with it. And the person takes the book and is very happy. He doesn't feel like he's been slammed into like some of the persons who don't understand this principle, and they just think, well, hey, you got to have this, otherwise you're going to hell. I know a lot of people did that. So the point is this: is that we will. Sorry. Is that we will. Point is that we will become more sensitive, and we will become much more thoughtful, we'll be much more dependent upon Krishna. And that Krishna is the supreme compassionate. That's why we're all in this room tonight. Out of Krishna's compassion, out of Prabhupada's compassion, but we wouldn't be here. So that compassion is manifesting here, but you take it from here and you pray to Krishna, please, Krishna, I'm not compassionate enough, I'm not thoughtful enough, I'm not feelingful enough, I'm not considering the difficulties of others, I'm always crying to you about my difficulties. Please help me to be more considerate. Some people, they don't even have hot water, and I'm crying about, that the floor is a little bit dusty. So please help me to see things in the proper perspective. People don't have hot water. There are people who don't even eat today. There are people who are walking around with pain in their back, and they have for the past 15 years, and you're walking around completely free of any real health problems. Yeah, you got a little ache in your shoulder, the knee, you're having problems squatting down. But, this is nothing compared to some of these. You go to India, you see those elderly ladies walking around with their backs their head is almost near their knees. And they walk that way for every day. They've been doing it for 40, 50 years. They put out their hands, they want a little something, they're begging because they can't even do a job. So when we start complaining, think about some of the real worthy of complaints. So that's the first thing. Stop grousing, stop complaining, stop upsetting. If you have something that's worthy of complaining about, then just deal with it. But don't talk about it. If you want to talk about something, talk about the glories, the greatness of devotees in Krishna. And if you do that, you will become super compassionate. Okay? Thank you so much. Any other questions?
I have a question. It's related to what you were just saying.
Yeah.
What was saying.
Please.
And it says that I used to complain about not having shoes until I saw a man that didn't have feet.
Didn't have a what?
Didn't have feet.
Okay.
I'm complaining, I don't have shoes, but this man has no feet.
Great example. Did you all hear that? Yeah, he's saying that I'm complaining, that I don't have shoes. But when I saw this man who doesn't even have feet, I stopped complaining. So there's always two ways of looking at a half a glass of milk. It's that the glass is either half unfilled or it's half filled. So if you think of the filled part, then you'll see that's the positive. And you think of the negative, then that's the negative. So before I end this, I'd like to end it with two little points. The first is, in that room over there, I've set up my table with all my all of my audiobooks of Srila Prabhupada's paper books. You can listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. Some of you are planning to do, a 500-mile trek up the coast or wherever. You're going to travel to New York. You're going to travel west, and it's a long trip. You can hear the whole Bhagavatam. You can hear the whole Ramayana. You can hear nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction. You can hear so many wonderful pastimes while you're driving, and when you finally reach your destination, and your partner says, "Hey, we're here," it seems like you've only been driving 5 minutes because you're so totally absorbed and wrapped up in the pastimes of Lord Ram and the wonderful activities that take place, or the activities of the Mahabharata, the Pandavas and Queen Kunti and so forth. And you get all this, and this is wonderful knowledge because when you have it, you can also share it. There's nothing like telling a story. Everybody likes to hear a good story. So if you tell these stories, you learn these stories because these stories will transcendentalize or Krishnaize you. So I have them all on the table. Now there are some which have been sold out. It doesn't mean that you can't have the disc. It does mean you can't have the disc, but I can download that right into your computer. Just all I have to do is have your email address, and then you can send it tonight or tomorrow morning. And it takes me no less than 20 seconds to do that. And you'll have that. And then once it's in your computer, then you can download it into your cell phone, or you can put it on your USB drive, or you can make your own disk. You don't have to, now the big computer companies have gotten away from disks anyway. You don't find the slats on the side. Not the last 3-4 years, there's no slats. So they want you to get an external drive if you want to do that. So if you want to be real up to date, then you get the download. Any way is fine with me. Okay, so I have a catalog sheet. It's in there. Please take the sheet even if you don't want any. I also have a USB of my entire collection, which is half the price that you normally pay if you bought each disc separately, independently. So please consider this, avail yourself of this. It's wonderful. The USB is this big, okay, and you put it in your car in your USB port, and you can put on any one of those titles that I just mentioned to you. Isn't that wonderful? You drive for 500 miles and you hear the whole Ramayana. I mean, people come, I got letters and calls and all of these things. They thank me, not because I did anything great, but because they would have just wasted their time looking at the white line for 500 miles. I mean, there's more to life than looking at white lines and just green trees, We can hear the wonderful pastimes of the Supreme Lord. I could end this with a very funny and very telling story, but maybe I think we've gone a little bit over time. Isn't it time to shut up?
Go ahead.
You want me to end it? Okay, I'll end it if I can remember this wonderful story. Because I said everybody likes stories, and this is one of them, which is one of my favorites. Has anyone ever heard the story of the mercy of God? Okay. There was once a king. And the king, he was a bit vain, and he had a minister. And the minister was devotionally inclined, very much so. So whenever anything happened, whether it was favorable or unfavorable, the minister would say, such is the mercy of God. So the king didn't mind that, but when the king would have something unfavorable happen, then the minister would say, such is the mercy of God. The king says, excuse me? He says, it's the mercy of God. I've been hearing this for the last several years, and I really don't want to hear it anymore. You're a great minister, you've got a great mind, you're very wise, but do I have to hear, such is the mercy of God? That's how I become wise, by thinking in this terms. Okay, just please, have a little respect for my needs as well. So he's planning the next day, they went out going on a hunting trip. So they took the minister along because sometimes problems occur. The ministers were really smart, he really knew how to get out of difficulties and problems. So what happened, as they were driving along up the path, he and a few soldiers, in the middle of the path there was this cobra. And the cobra, had his hood out like this. And so when the horse saw that, he reared up, with his four legs. And when he did that, the king fell off the horse. And he fell right down by the cobra, and his head was right near the cobra's mouth. So immediately the minister said, such is the mercy of God. So the king looked at him like this, and as the king was looking that way, and his hand was like this, the cobra went whoosh, and took his two fangs and dug it into them. And again, the minister says, such is the mercy of God. So now the poison is already starting to go through his body, because that's what happens. And so the hit him with the thumb, and not in the wrist. He got him with the thumb. So then, of course, the cobra wriggled away and got out of it. So the king saw this. He said, the only way I'm going to deal with this to stop myself from dying is I have to cut my thumb off. So put his thumb out on a rock and took his sword out, and the thumb was off. Then he wrapped it in bandages, and as he cut the thumb off, again the minister says, mercy of God. So he said, I have heard enough from you. And the only place I'm going to send you right now is to the dungeon, and you're going to stay there. And you can say, such is the mercy of God. Get out of here. They told two of the sentinels, take him to the dungeon, and I don't want to see his face anymore, no matter how smart he is. They took him away, and the king decided that he would just go on the hunt by himself, because he was pretty powerful. So as he was driving along, what happened was that he was suddenly surrounded by what are known in India as thugs. You know what a thug is? A thug is, well, we call them thugs here, criminals, but they're worse than that. They actually use human beings to offer in sacrifice to Goddess Kali. You see, they cut the head off, and then the blood comes, and they offer the body to Kali, because according to tradition, she likes the blood. So what happens is he was surrounded by 100 of these thugs. So you get off your horse. He got off the horse, and they looked him over. It was a quick look over, and they said, he'll do. So they brought him back to the, to where their ashram is in the woods. And then there was a pond there, or a little lake, and the head of the ashram wanted to have a son. So that was why he wanted to offer this person to Goddess Kali. So anyway, what happened, you should sit down, please. Yeah. So he wanted to offer it to Goddess Kali, and what happened was that, so what happened was that, it makes me lose my place. This is so cute and lovable. So anyway, what happened was that, so they said, yes, wash him up. Put him in the water, and then put a white sheet around him, and sharpen up the cleaver, the knife, and we'll have a nice offering. So this is what happened. So finally everything was there. Now they had to call the head priest, and the head priest came over and had to do a full examination, because you can't offer to the goddess something which has some defect in it. You want to give a perfect face, perfect ears, perfect nose, perfect head, neck, everything just perfect. So when he finally came to the hand, he said there was a big bandage on the hand. He said, what is this? You have no thumb. So I said, well, we can't offer this. You can't offer him to Kali. She'll curse us if we give him something with no thumb. So his thumb was, get him out of here. Go, leave. So the king was absolutely astounded. He got back on his horse, and he was riding, thinking, yeah, the minister was right. That was the mercy of God. He says it was the mercy of God. I don't have a thumb, but at least I have a life. So he has a life. So he rode into the dungeon, and he went down into the. He says, you were right. Yeah, it was the mercy of God. He told him a little story. And then he says, well, see, I told you. And then the king says, but there's something I don't understand. I said, what is that? He says, when I sent you to the dungeon, you said, such is the mercy of God. Now, how could that be merciful? So the minister says, well, if you hadn't sent me, I would be with you. And if I were wouldn't have been mercy at all for me. I didn't even have to fill the blanks. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Let us leave in the mood and the understanding that every moment we should depend upon Krishna and always think that whatever is coming to us, it is the mercy of the Lord, and we simply deal with it accordingly. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki. Glory to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
That's it. Thank you. Okay.
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare
Hare Krishna. So first of all, before we make any more announcements, was Maharaj's lecture inspiring or what? Would we like to see him back?